To Kill a Mockingbird timeline by All of Us to You. Now these were the Jim Crow laws. They were put in place to segregate the blacks and the whites, but sometimes it wasn't just the blacks, it could be other races too. They separated the blacks and whites in restaurants, bathroom facilities, and other places as well, sometimes on the buses. They have been put in place after the Civil Rights Movement. And as you can see, sometimes the barbers were put into effect for this, and sometimes the schools were put in effect for this too. It wasn't very fair at this time, and then many people fought against it and got them canceled.
Important people and events throughout the 50s and 60s. Emmett Till. Emmett Till bought candy at a store, and as he was leaving, he said something to the white owner's wife. This was considered out of his place, and he was killed. Rosa Parks. Rosa Parks refuses to give up her seat on the bus and is arrested. She influenced many people to take part in the civil rights movements. Lunch counter sit-ins and sit-in protests started becoming more and more common. Freedom rides. Blacks rode buses and stayed in their seats when they were told to move. The KKK then beat the riders up and set the buses on fire. The KKK was getting more and more violent as time passed. In May of 1961, members of the KKK were getting onto buses and lighting them on fire and beating up black riders that wouldn't sit in the segregated areas. To Kill a Mockingbird was published in the year 1960. The book brought awareness to the effects of segregation. Martin Luther King Jr. was a very influential speaker throughout the 60s civil rights movement. He would gather in crowds and rallies and organize peaceful protests. King spoke on the racial injustice and was gaining support. He was arrested in 1962 and multiple other times because some whites did not like that he was making progress. He was later assassinated, preparing for a speech in 1968. Influential events from the 70s to the early 90s. August 26, 1970. Approximately 50,000 women marched in New York, and another 100,000 women participated in demonstrations and rallies in 90 cities in 42 states for women's equality. January 22, 1973. The Supreme Court in Roe v. Wade strikes down most states' restrictive abortion laws, greatly expanding the right to legal abortion. November 18, 1977. The first National Women's Conference held in Houston calls for change aimed at empowering women and providing them with equal opportunities. October 14, 1979. The first gay and lesbian civil rights march on Washington draws more than 100,000 people. More acts and rights are being passed as time goes on.
Important highlights of the civil rights movement from the late 90s to the present. In 1996, supporters of the gay workers' rights forced a vote on the Employment Non-Discrimination Act in the 104th Congress. If passed, it would make it illegal to fire or fail to hire or promote an individual on the singular factor of their sexual orientation. In 1997, California Proposition 187 was a ballot initiative to establish a state-run citizenship screening system and to prohibit illegal immigrants from using non-emergency health care, public education, and other services in the state of California. In 2001, after the terror attacks on the World Trade Center, the U.S. government not only went to war, but also put into action the Patriot Act, which allowed the government to keep monitoring our social lives, for example, our social media. In 2004, Senator Edward Kennedy introduced a bill called the Fairness and Individual Rights Necessary to Ensure a Stronger Society. On February 26, 2012, an innocent black boy named Trayvon Martin was shot for looking suspicious with his hood up. This caused massive amounts of racial controversy throughout the country. The Black Lives Matter movement starts in 2013, which to this day also remains very controversial.